Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new, my name is Lily and I'm a Chinese transracial adoptee. Every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday I post videos about my experience as a transracial adoptee. So if that's something you're interested in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into the video. Hey friends, so welcome back. I am just chilling on my floor because I'm filming in the middle of the day and the lighting is good, and I didn't really feel like setting up my usual background. So we're gonna film here today, and Grant loves to say hello, so he's just gonna chill next to me, and the cat is somewhere else, but it's fine. What are we gonna talk about today? We are gonna talk about redirecting awkward conversation and redirecting conversation that is becoming intrusive. And I've had many younger adoptees, not even younger, just fellow adoptees ask me, how do I handle intrusive questions? And I am still working on that. When I was younger, I felt way more obligated to answer every question that was asked of me. And now that I have experienced more of life and I've become a bit more cynical about life, I am completely fine with just saying, that's private information and I don't share it, or getting a little bit snarkier with my responses. If the question is basic and it's obvious that the person asking it is genuinely interested in you and they just want to know a bit more about you, I'm usually very fine with answering those questions. When people ask me where I'm from and that kind of thing, I'll usually answer it. It's actually funny. There was one day that I went to a coffee shop and the barista there asked me, "Where are you from?" And I think I was just in a mood that day. And I was like, do you mean what my ethnicity is? And he immediately started apologizing. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, no, I'm so sorry. That is not what I meant to say at all. You look a lot like one of my friends from back home." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I was from China, but I was adopted." And he looks at me and his eyes get wide and he goes, "Oh my gosh, she was too." And then we just started talking about Chinese adoption, and he ended up telling me about how his family is actually very involved in the Chinese adoption community and their local group is very big. And so we became friends, and it was one of those rare moments where the conversation and the relationship that developed afterwards was actually nice. And that's not typically what happens when people ask me where I'm from. Usually it's just because they want to say something like, "Well, I just wanted to know because your English is so good," or "You don't sound like you're from wherever." And that's when I actually get pretty annoyed. But if it's obvious that someone is just interested in you, if you're meeting someone for the first time and you're having a conversation, a get to know you conversation, and they start asking these kinds of questions, I've realized that a lot of times people don't realize that the stuff they're asking might be triggering or might be too private for you to share, just because they don't have the experience of being an adopted person. Now when people ask me questions, especially after they find out that I'm adopted, I'm kind of wary about answering things because I am afraid of the response. The response is usually one extreme. Either "I'm so sorry" or "You're so blessed, you must be so grateful." I've gone to that point where I feel like I need to advocate and educate about adoption when people ask me about it. And if I don't do it, then I'm kind of being disingenuous and lying, because my whole thing is about pushing back against the savior narrative and just informing the public about experiences as an adopted person and informing people about things that they may not have known about. But then when people ask me directly and I'm not in advocacy mode, I kind of freak out and I'm like, oh, do I want to put in the energy? This isn't one of my episodes where I plan it every single week and I know it's coming. It's life. So I tend to choose when I advocate in real life when I'm talking to other people. And there are days when I'm just like, I don't have the energy. I'm just gonna let the conversation keep moving, because it's unrealistic for adoptees to just constantly be educating and constantly be advocating and constantly be reminding people that our reality is not always what they think it is. Yeah, for the most part, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. But then if it's obvious that they really are just prying and maybe they're willing to learn, but I really haven't seen evidence of that yet, or what they're asking is just blatantly intrusive from the get-go, that's when I get snarky, and I'll usually just turn the question back on them. It immediately shuts down the conversation because they realize it's incredibly personal. And I think it's just one of those situations where people hear that I'm adopted and then they immediately think that all of my adoption story is just there for them. And even not just my story, like my part of it, like my parents' parts of it too. Like, why did your parents choose to adopt, and that kind of thing. And I understand that sometimes people might just be curious, but on the other hand, it's like, I'll ask the question, like, I don't know, why did your parents choose to have children biologically, or that kind of thing. And that's not a question that gets asked normally, because that's the normal way to start a family. And so when you turn the question back on them, it really gets them thinking, like, why am I asking this? Or when people ask about my name, like, you're not the person I expected to have that name. Where did it come from? I'm like, oh, where did yours come from? It took me a while to really stand up for myself against intrusive questions. And I mean, there are times when I just answer the question and hope that the conversation moves on, because I don't have the energy to deal with it at the moment. But I also just have learned that you can say, like, oh, I'm not really comfortable answering that question. And it's fine, because you don't really owe anybody an answer if they're just being intrusive and whatever. Like, if they were respectful and cared about you, they should honor your privacy, and they should respect the fact that you are not comfortable speaking about a certain thing at a certain time. You know, I think the more that adopted people speak up and share about their experiences, more people will realize that we are not just objects and human interest stories, and they can just use all of our information and learn everything about us and just, not really respect us as humans. To wrap it all up, I really want to believe that most people they have good intentions. They just want to know a little bit more about you, and I will usually give them the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. But when I start to see signs that it's really just not a respectful conversation and I'm not really safe in that conversation, that's when I'll just shut it down. And I used to feel really bad about doing that, but I don't anymore, because again, I don't owe anybody that information, and I need to protect myself and my mental health, and I need to protect my story, because again, so much has already been taken from adoptees, and so we really need to protect what we do still have ownership over. If you are interested in more videos, you can always check out these two right here. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.